Welcome back, guys. I hope everyone is having a very wonderful day so far. And thanks for stopping by. It means a lot. So today we're here with the Genesis March points update for 2026. And before we get into it, I just wanted to kind of talk about how the format is going right now. Um, so I've heard a lot of dooming surrounding this points update and just kind of where the philosophy is at in general. And while I do understand where it's coming from, obviously there's some cards on here that, or some cards that aren't on here that I really wish were on here. There's problems, as there will basically always will be, but overall, I want to say that the format so far has been really, really good. All the updates, I felt like the changes are meaningful. They meaningfully take up the format, but they do a really good job of, cutting back on some of the top decks, making sure everything is playable, and the format has been just tons and tons of fun so far. So, but before you start dooming about the format and saying it's unplayable, at least give it a try. Genesis is super super good right now, and I'm having an absolute blast. So, at least play before you judge. Give it a fair shake. So first off, with the points update, we have Clip and Q going to 6, and then Cool Tune Synchro going from 0 to 10. So this is a really, really, really big change. Synchro is definitely just the best card in Cool Tune. It's a starter, it's an end board piece, dodges interruption. This card is just crazy. The deck will still probably play 3 copies of Cool Tune Synchro if I had to imagine, just because the card is by far the best card in the deck. And alongside 3Q and then probably 2 Clip, you're looking at 60 an engine, which is actually a pretty big deal for Cool Tune. Cool Tune is a deck that is pretty bad at breaking boards. It relies heavily on the non-engine, and going up so high in points is a pretty big deal. So these are very meaningful hits to Cool Tune. Exo Sister, they have Betrayal going from 0 to 7 and Pax going from 10 to 5. This is a pretty minor hit to Exo Sister. The deck's pretty much about where it was before, just a little tiny hit. So Monarch has Zaborg going from 80 to 100, and then Spell Card Soul Exchange and Steel String Sacrifice going from 0 to 3 each. This does a pretty good job of boxing out Zaborg, in that if you want to play Zaborg, you're playing a very weak Monarch deck. You still can, in the same way you can still play the other versions of Monarch, but it's gonna feel really bad, especially going second without any copies of Spell Card Soul Exchange. And I think this means Monarch as a whole is just gonna drift closer to the Domain style of deck. Domain is interesting because Domain Monarch is just really weak to any kind of spell and trap removal, and it's also really bad against decks that don't use the extra deck, like Vanquish Soul. So it's kind of just very hit or miss overall. Zaborg Monarch was definitely the best version of Monarch, and it's been boxed out really, really well. Radiant Typhoon Vision going from 0 to 10. It's a meaningful hit. Radiant Typhoon is also one of those decks where the end board in engine is pretty weak, so it relies a bit on the non-engine. The deck is still strong, but I definitely like Vision going from 0 to 10. With Vision at 10, the other spell card that searches monsters at 10, and then the best main deck monster at 7. You're looking at a lot of points in engine if you want to play the good Radiant Typhoon cards. Archmage getting some minor hits with Vandalism and Varnish going to 3 apiece, and then Medius hits a lot of decks, right, from the Doomsday to the Elf Note to Archmage. I think these are reasonable hits overall. Sylvie going from 0 to 5. I definitely like to see this. I think White Forest is at a stronger spot right now than I would like it to be. Overall, I think this does a good job of bringing it closer in line with where it should be. Could probably use a bit more than just Sylvie going to 5, but it's a very good start. The deck was already playing a lot in Engine, so an extra like 15 points for Sylvie is a big deal. So Foxy Tune is going from 5 to 7, and Rising Tail going from 0 to 3. I just like more hits on Punk in general. I think the deck is just like the kind of combo slop that you want to be a deck that can't play non-engine. Like, I'm perfectly fine with combo slop decks like Punk and like White Forest as well to be in the format, but they should not be able to play any of the non-engine cards. And as you'll see down here, I think it's really important that we put like all like even the decent non-engine to have some points attached to it so that the pure engine decks can't play the non-engine that's still 99% as good, right? They have to go pretty far down to see like the same quality of card. So Dracotail Malulu goes from 5 to 7 and Rahu goes from 0 to 10. This is maybe the biggest change to a deck. It's probably not as big as Vanquish Silver Genesis, but close. So obviously I've been playing Dracotail for basically all of Genesis. I've made some of like the biggest innovations in the deck, and I probably had some of the most success with Dracotail. Obviously other people have been playing it. So what does this do to Dracotail? So obviously the deck was already basically at 100 in Engine, so any hits to Dracotail are going to feel like extra impactful. Malulu going from 5 to 7 gives you about like 6 extra points, or sorry, about 6 extra points you need to play, which is not too big of a deal. The big deal is Rahu going from 0 to 10. What this basically does is it essentially boxes out multiple Rahus from seeing play. Right now, if you want to play one Rahu, one Kitu, one Flame, one Arthalion, one Phimena, and then 3 of like the rest of the monsters, that's 99 points in Engine, which is actually, I think, a good spot for Dracotail to be in. I think Dracotail is one of those decks where it's very strong. It's a deck that can win with only Engine going first and going second, but it should not be able to play the best pieces of non-Engine. And I think it puts the Dracotail at a pretty good spot. I think it's probably where it should be. I think the deck really can't get much more than this if you wanted to see any play. I think at this point, it is going to be in line with where I think the deck should be. I'm overall moderately happy about what they did to Dracotail. I think this is where the deck should be. I think it really can't get much more, or else it will just be completely unplayable. But it's definitely like at a point where it's fair and probably not the best deck, but able to be played. So for Genesis hits, you have the normal spell going from 33 to 10, and then Archfiend going from 0 to 10, Code going from 0 to 10, Warrior going from 0 to 3, and Sage going from 0 to 7. This is a really big hit to the engine because before it was everything was at 0, so you could play 3 Archfiend, 3 Code, Warrior, Sage, whatnot, and that was all 0. Now if you want to do that, that's like 70 points. And like playing 1 Archfiend, 1 Code, 1 Warrior, 1 Sage, that's still a lot of points, but also doesn't get you anywhere really, because you don't have much ways to search this except for there is the one card that does search any Archfiend. It is this guy. Royal Archfiend lets you tribute it from hand to add any Archfiend card, and then you get an extra normal for any fiend. So that's still very strong. So I could see a world where you maybe cut Code and you play like one Archfiend, 1 Warrior, 1 Sage. With like Royal Archfiend. That could still be playable for 20 points, but it doesn't feel great. And that's still 20 points is a lot just for 1 Archfiend, 1 Warrior, 1 Sage, and 3 of the Royal Archfiend. especially because Code was like the best card in the deck. So overall, very, very happy to see this happen to Regenesis. I think Regenesis Vanquish Soul was just way too strong for what it was, and I'm happy to see all these cards coming up. And mixed to the deck as itself is still fine, but as an engine splashable, it's just so much less splashable now, which is good. Ghost Mourner goes from 3 to 5. I would have probably rather seen it go from 3 to 4 like Ghost Ogre, but that's okay. Ghost Bell going from 5 to 6. Veiler going from 7 to 8. Ash going from 15 to 20. And Drill going from 25 to 20. All of these I like. Again, I would have probably had Ghost Mourner go from 3 to 4. But I do like just the hand traps in general getting more expensive. I'm not a huge fan of like the hand trap mini game. I like it where, you know, decks should be able to do their whole combo and have a end board that is reasonably breakable with your opponent's just your engine. And I like the idea that, you know, if you want to be able to play all these hand traps, you can, but you're going to have a much worse engine, right? If you want to play a deck that's going to have, you know, about 100 in engine, right? Like, you know, Monarch might, and then like, you know, Draco Tail will, you know, White Forest basically does, Vanquish Soul Genesis basically does. You're gonna, you know, have none of these that you can really play. And if you want to play a deck that is, you know, much worse and doesn't have points in the engine, then you can play a lot of these cards, and you'll actually be, you know, able to have some kind of turn 0 interaction that, I mean, a lot of decks are going to be less prepared for, because interestingly, the less played these cards are, the better they also are, because if people aren't playing Ghost Mourner, you're not going to really try to play around Ghost Mourner, right? People aren't playing Ghost Bell, you're not really going to try to play around Ghost Bell, right? People aren't playing Nib, you're not going to really try to play around Nib, which makes these cards a lot better. You know what I mean? And I like that, like, Kultune is now at a pot where it can't just play a ton of non-engine, right? It's a lot worse now, where it's like this deck has to try to figure out, you know, how you can play, you know, the breakers or whatever to make it so this deck can actually function going second. DD Crow going from 0 to 1, Cosmic going from 0 to 1, Dark Roller 0 to 2. I would have probably liked to see Dark Roller go from 0 to 1, to be honest. But I think it's fine going from 0 to 2. And Mistaken Arrest going from 0 to 10. I like all these a lot. Mistaken Arrest, I don't think it's going to see any play at 10. It's just too much out the board for Mistaken Arrest, for like almost anyone to play it. You're spending 30 points for an unsearchable 3 of that are only in your deck for once every 3 games, meaning you're seeing it about once every 10 games for 30 points. It's just it's way too much. Malong Garura Aggregator. This is kind of annoying. Obviously for me, because I was playing Garura in the Dragotail deck, so now you basically have to cut it. You could play, I guess, 3 Fusion Deployment, 1 Cartesia with the 2 Malulu for 99 points. So you just cut the second Cartesia for Garura. And that's decent, although I'd probably just would rather have 2 Cartesias than the Garura anyway. It's not that important. I do kind of like this style, where it's like you can play Slayers for 3 copies, but you have to play like the Fossil Warrior, the Wind Pegasus. Valen is still crazy. But, you know, I think that kind of makes sense, where it's like you can play Slayer with really good targets for a lot, or you can play Slayer with a lot worse targets for very cheap. Eclipse going from 5 to 3, Book of Moon going from 7 to 4. This should be at 3, or less. But overall, definitely going the right direction. Dark Hole 3 to 1, I like. Honestly, I'd probably rather Dark Hole be at like 2, but it is what it is. Raigeki 7 to 4. I think like Dark Hole should be at 2, Raigeki should be at 3, and Illusion Gate should be at like 4 or 5. Which is one of the most annoying cards to not see on here, is Illusion Gate. Really wish we could have seen it, but it's fine. DDKC 3 to 1, evenly at 10 to 7. These cards are still not very good. Imperm 13 to 12, still not very good. Pankratops 10 to 5. Now this is the point where you could start seeing Pankratops seeing play. I think 5 points for a Pank is definitely, going to be something you're going to see a lot. Maybe 6 for a Change of Heart, but it's very unlikely. The only thing on here that really is going to start seeing play, I think, is going to be Pankratops at 5. Maybe Meows at 2 could see some play. But overall, these are cards all going in the right direction. Love to see it. Diagram 33 to 15. Union Hanger 25 to 15. ABC's not very good. Hekahan's Gygas and Zero going both to 0 is actually a somewhat big change. Hekahan's I've seen, actually get some play. The deck can end on like multiple Omnis or like multiple like counter traps, which it's still very strong. So Hekahan's basically being completely free now is a little bit scary. I don't think they needed to get more points, but losing 45 points, that's a very big deal. Stratos going from 3 to 0, Ulcanex going from 20 to 18, Curing going from 10 to 6. I like this a lot. I think Fire King's a very cool deck, and I want to see more of it. Hero, I think, could be a very cool deck. Sprite, Gigantic going from 20 to 15, Shishao 33 to 20. That's actually pretty big. Shishao to 20 and Barrier to 15, I think, could be impactful enough to start seeing some Sword Soul and some Voiceless Voice. Broda going to 33, Fossil Day going to 33, Mist going to... Bossa going from 7 to 5, Redux going from 7 to 5, Tempest going from 7 to 5, Tidal going from 75, and Melody going from 33 to 25. Not a big deal. This card could probably be at less. Dark Magician of Destruction, 0 to 15. I like that a lot. Gisa Tamais, 0 to 1. Box out Dragoon. Makes sense. Makanko cards going from 0 to 18. I like this a lot. Makanko can be a very frustrating deck where they can just like kill you out of nowhere. It's just, with in a breaker format, I don't like decks that are just like super adept at killing, like a Makanko or a Tempai. Sandwich Day going from 0 to 3 makes sense. Trade in 0 to 5. Observatory 0 to 5. Ixchel 0 to 5. Engage 0 to 5. Or 0 to 7. Into the Void 3 to 7. Tune Table 0 to 7. I don't know why that is for Tune Table. That makes no sense to me. The deck would be Dog Water without Tune Table, and I don't know why I want to hit tunes, but it's whatever. I guess the same could be said for Striker, but Engage probably had to go to 7. Upstart 0 to 3 to 7. Rage Knight 0 to 8. D. Double 0 to 80. Just box out some of the same kind of like immediate like second turn kills, the same as like Makanko or whatever. Fantastic Machinex 0 to 100. Dark Radicator Warlock 0 to 100. Get rid of the FTKs. I love it. Overall, I think this point list is very, very good. It brought all of the top 5 decks, Kyultune, Monarch, Dracotail, Genesys, and Radiant Typhoon, much more in line with where they should be. I think this is something that I've wanted to see them do, is just put like a few points, like 1 or 2, on like the staple like non-engine to make it so if you are playing a deck that is full engine, you shouldn't be able to play non-engine that's 99% as good as the non-engine that costs points, right? Like Ultimate Slayer, Dark Ruler aren't like better or worse than like Book of Eclipse, Book of Moon. If you're making a format based on the good decks have to spend a lot in engine so they can't play as good of non-engine, you can't have non-engine that's 99% as good be free, or else them being 100 points in engine doesn't matter, right? It only matters what you take out of their engine, not how many points they have, right? So by increasing this stuff, like suddenly decks like Kyultune, decks like Radiant Typhoon that have to play like 60 to 70 to 80 points, well, now all of a sudden like you have some of the okay non-engine, but you're losing out on like the turn 0 interaction, and you have to figure out how you can make it so you can actually play into boards and not just hope your hand traps can get you there. I guess real quick, let's go at what I will probably be playing. I love Draco Tail. It's the probably the best deck in the format at just playing without any forms of non-engine. And I just like playing engine into engine, so I will probably still be playing Draco Tail. This right here is 98 points. Or sorry, this is 100 points, right? Because I have 2 Cosmic Cyclones at the board. And I think this deck is still very, very solid. You have 1 Rahu, 1 Key2. With 1 Rahu, 1 Key2, I think you need to play a 4th trap, or else you go through all 5 of these turn 1, and all of a sudden, well, now your cards can't activate, right? Your Pawn, your Malulu, your Urgula, you can't even use them on your opponent's turn, which is half of where your interaction comes from. So I think you need a 4th trap. I think playing a 4th trap means your grind is almost equivalent, if not maybe even a tiny bit better than what it was when you played 3 Rahu, 1 Key2, and 3 traps. Because I'm playing 1 less spell and trap, but 1 more spell and trap that gives me another one into the deck. So it's about the same. They did a really good job of boxing out like Dragon Maid Show. I wouldn't even consider that card anymore. They're doing a great job of making it so this deck can't play non-engine. Obviously, I'm on 2 Cosmic, but that's, whatever. And that's, what I think the best decks should be. If you're playing a deck that has a really, really good engine, you shouldn't be able to play all the best non-engine. That's, kind of what the whole purpose of the format is. So I would say, yeah, I'm super, super happy with where the format is going. I'm super happy with this list. Obviously, there are some cards we need to see. Illusion Gate has to get points on it, and Di-Fi, Macro, Shifter all need more points. Non-fusion area, Gravity Collapse, the no synchro, all of that, just get them out of the format. We don't need them. Whether they're good or not, right now, they'll be good eventually, and they're just not fun cards. So that's, I guess, the only thing I want to see happen. Because right now, I think the format's in a really good spot, and I'm having a ton of fun. I think every game that's like not decided by one of those cards has a ton of back and forth, and just genuinely turns out to be really well. So, yeah, overall, I would say please just give the format a try. The format is really, really good right now. And outside of, a couple issues that every format has, this format is doing really, really well. It's a ton of fun, and yeah, give it a try. Thank you all for watching. I know this was a little bit of a long one, went on a bunch of tangents as always, but again, thanks for sticking around. It means a lot, and take care, guys.